Every day, everywhere, you see or pass by some beautiful nature. But besides the beauty, there's so much to know about agriculture. Welcome in today's Farm Smart at Smart 24 TV, where we're going to be covering agriculture in a weather perspective. And my name is Chris Chitakahaman. Let's get deeper into it. Agriculture, a primary activity and a broad term for everything that goes into growing crops and raising animals to provide food and materials that people can use and enjoy, makes farming, which involves cultivating the land and raising livestock, part of agriculture, which also includes plant science. Raising animals for milk, meat, can also be described as farming. It is a great way to describe the lifestyle and work of people whose jobs are in the agriculture industry. Eighty percent of Uganda's land is arable, but only 35% is being cultivated. In financial year 2021-2022, agriculture accounted for about 24.1% of Uganda's GDP and 33% of export earnings. The Uganda Bureau of Statistics estimates that about 70% of Uganda's working population is employed in agriculture. Agriculture includes the preparation of plant and animal products for people to use, and their distribution to markets, and also provides most of the world's food and fabrics. Farming is practiced in various ways across the world, depending on the geographical conditions, demand of produce, labor, and level of technology. This can be looked at as a system. The important inputs are seeds, fertilizers, machinery, and labor. Some of the operations involved are plowing, sowing, irrigation, weeding, and harvesting. The outputs from the system include crops, wool, dairy, and poultry products. But did you know that farming can be classified into two main types? And these are subsistence farming and commercial farming. Commercial farming includes commercial grain farming, mixed farming, and plantation agriculture. And in commercial grain farming, crops are grown for commercial purposes. Wheat and maize are common commercially grown grains. And in Uganda, maize is one of the major staple foods, providing 40% of a Ugandanese daily calorie consumption. To meet the country's demand, most farmers grow some maize on their land, with over 2 million Ugandans counting on maize as their main source of income. According to research, The biggest challenge faced by maize farmers is the lack of adequate rainfall for a decent crop. Drought simply dries up the maize. Sometimes farmers have to get water and try to irrigate, but that's never easy. 3/4 of the world's severe droughts over the past 10 years have occurred in Africa, leading to crop failure, hunger, and poverty. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries report, maize is an important food and income security crop that provides livelihood of millions of small-scale farmers in Uganda. The quality standards of maize grains produced is generally low, and losses during harvesting, transport, storage and processing are relatively high. Production of maize increased from 2.8 million metric tons by 2015 to 4 million metric tons by 2017, and its importance is associated with increasing demand and favorable climate that enables 2 cropping seasons in a year. Increased demand for poultry products due to rising income has further increased demand for maize as animal feed. This implies that there is a large local potential market for maize. Maize is also a staple food for majority of people in neighboring countries, especially Kenya, who are major importers of Ugandan's maize grain. Kenya alone demands an average of 60,000 metric tons annually and is likely to go up to 1 million metric tons, hence increasing demand on the region market. Maize can be grown on a wide variety of soils, but performs best on well-drained, well-aerated, and deep warm rooms. It is well adapted with optimum temperature for plant growth ranges of 30 degrees Celsius to 34 degrees Celsius. Temperature below 10 degrees Celsius and above 40 degrees Celsius result in poor growth and death of the maize plant. Maize prefers rainfall of 500 to 600 millimeters as the optimal range and well distributed over the growing seasons. About 50 species exist and consist of different colors, textures, grain shapes, and sizes. White, yellow, and red are the most common cultivated maize types. The white and yellow varieties are preferred by most people, depending on the region.
We have a number of varieties of maize, and one of them is called WE2115. WE is called WEMA. The word should be WEMA, meaning water efficient maize for Africa. WEMA, that is the word. Other people call it the Tego maize. We have another variety of maize called Chipeke. We have named it Chipeke, but it is called Uganda hybrid UH5355.
This variety is called UH5355. It's our new variety, and it is a 3-way cross hybrid. So it is a very high yielding variety with genetic potential of up to 35 bags per acre under rain fed. Actually, this is the variety that we are producing. We are planting in all prison farms. But I should also or make it clear that we are producing this seed ourselves. We are not buying this seed. Part of the team that multiplies this maize seed. So we're multiplying 3 varieties, 2 hybrids and 1 OPV. So the hybrids, we have the UH5355 that at times some people call maroon, and the UH5051, which is a variant hybrid, plus an OPV Longe 5D.
Maize is a tall, determinate annual C4 plant varying in height from 1 to 4 meters, producing large, narrow, opposing leaves, borne alternately along the length of a solid stem.
It's a very good variety, drought tolerant, high yield, and it does uniform. So it is all uniform. It will ripen at the same time, so it doesn't give you chance to. It gives you chance to do all the agronomic practices timely, and they will all receive the same dose. It's a double comber, you can see. It's a double comber, and the yield is very good. The grain is very good. It's a Flint maize.
They have a number of attributes. One of them is drought tolerance. As we've had, water efficient maize for Africa, meaning where there is little water, this maize can perform water efficiency. Then maturity period is 120 days, high yielding up to 3.5 tons per acre. And to have that tonnage of 3.5, you need to plant only 10 kilograms in 1 acre, 10 kilograms of seed. At the end of it, if you manage very well with enough rain, you can expect up to 35 bags. So another attribute is drought tolerance. I've talked about pest and disease resistance, especially now that we are affected by the armyworm and the stalk borer and some maize diseases. Some of these varieties are resistant to resistant to some of these diseases. Then double cobbing. You can see 2 cobs per stem. That is if well managed. You can see here, there are 2 cobs. You can see another one here. All these are attributes. Farmers are looking at varieties that can be able to give them 2 cobs per stem. So the Chipeke maize that we have named Chipeke and the Wema have those attributes within them. Maturity period, I've talked about it, 120 days. That is 4 months from planting date up to harvesting time.
This is a variant hybrid. It is called UH5051. It's a variant hybrid because we have picked some parents from the population. It's a very good also hybrid, and it's very drought tolerant. Majorly we are growing it, a lot of it in northern and northeastern parts of the country. It has showed very good performance there. Its yield is up to 20 bags under rain-fed. It's a very good variety. In fact, we got a lot of testifications from farmers testifying that this seed at least survived that drought. That's why we are able to harvest. So we are multiplying it ourselves. We have the parent lanes. We also produce parent lanes for other seed companies to buy from us. UH5051. The matures in 120 days. Also, it closes in very well to avoid the issues of birds.
What is looked at majorly in maize is this: high yielding, double cobbing, then there is what we call lodging. The maize has to stand firm and hold the cobs. Some maize are easily fall off, but now these varieties are strong enough. Then there are some maize varieties that the husk doesn't cover completely the cob, and then water will get into until the maize will begin rotting. But you can see all our grains are covered. The cob is all covered in the husk.
And here we have our third variety, which is an OPV. OPV meaning it's an openly pollinated variety. So it yields slightly less than the others because it's not a hybrid, but it's very good because it's drought tolerant and takes shorter maturity period. Because for it matures in 110 days compared to the other high yielding but slightly late maturing varieties. Farmers like it so much. It is very good for short rains. When you suspect that the rains are going to be short, then you can plant Longe 5. Ours is Longia 5D because it is having some protein in it. And that's the D. So that even a family which is eating and doesn't have a lot of protein source can get some bit of protein from it. And it's very sweet when roasted and when eaten, when they cook it. But also has very good malleability.
Maize produces good crops in various climatic zones, and it prospers in areas too dry for rice and too wet for wheat, thus fitting in a niche between the two. Maize grows quickly and produces almost double the yield of wheat. It is used as human food, livestock feed, and export. Quality of maize is judged by the overall appearance, and the quality diminishes if some of the grains are damaged by insects, or rodents, or are discolored, moldy, broken, and contaminated by non-grain matter of organic or inorganic origin.
We don't have many diseases affecting maize here, but the major disease that really shocked the whole country was called MLN, maize rhizole necrotic disease. This is a disease that came recently from our neighbors in Kenya, and it was affecting the maize by drying the leaves. And it mostly affected the eastern part of Uganda, that is on the borders of Kenya. Majorly what we are looking at are the pests, like the armyworm and the stalk borer, but all these are controllable.
Some pests affecting of recent, in the recent past, we have been having issues with the African bollworm. It wiped out some other farmers' gardens, but we kept in very fast and we sprayed with the prosphenos and cypermethrin. It really gave us very good results. So the African armyworm, the bollworms, but also the maize stalk borer, it is very dangerous. If you don't identify it very early, it can wipe out the entire field. But for it affects the maize when it is still young. But with the prosphenos and cypermethrin, you are able to handle it because it's both systemic and contact. We have also some few challenges of some diseases. One of them being the smut. You have seen maize at times looking like as if it is having charcoal sort of cob. That is the smut disease. And it's a fungal disease, especially when the rain is too much. It can come. But good enough, our varieties are disease tolerant and pest tolerant. Actually, that's why you see we harvest even amidst those challenges, because of that pest tolerance and disease tolerant. And also from the apparent lanes, we sort them and we use pure lanes. So we eliminate some of those diseases which would otherwise be transmitted through the seed when we are selecting the parent lines. And we have tried really to manage. So far, so good, I really want to say.
Corn has different quality standards depending on the use of the crop. Corn grown for animal feed would need to have high protein and starch content, and for human consumption, it should have low moisture level as well as high grain weight.
UH5355 is very good. It has very good malleability. After all, it also yields better. But also storage. You know, for us, we produce maize, and you have to store it long for food for our inmates. So we must now engage in that variety that gives us very good storability, and that is the UH5355. But also the one which will not lose a lot of weight after storage. So when you store it at a moisture content of about 13% moisture content, it can store for long. And that's what we want to tell farmers. Post-harvest handling is very important. You eliminate issues of aflatoxins. You have had, recently we have been having issues of aflatoxins. So the post-harvest is important. We tell farmers to harvest the crop when it is mature, at least at a moisture percentage of about 13%. That's when you can thresh and store it for long. Otherwise, you have issues of hunger like we have been having.
Storage of food is important for the family and also for the society. In the past, food items were stored by drying the item in the sun or over a fire. Now we can also store them by canning and by cooling in the refrigerator. Other ways of storage include salting, bagging, sealing, and even cooking.
One of the challenges we have as farmers and in some of these other countries, developing countries, we mishandle the produce. You suffer to produce, then you lose the produce when it is already mature. So what we are showing the showgoers and farmers, and what we teach our prisoners, that don't dry the produce on the open soil. If you can afford to do a slab like this is a drying slab, so that you can, when you remove your maize from the garden, when it has not reached like 13% moisture content, you dry it further. By doing this, you are preventing aflatoxins. Because we have a challenge of aflatoxins. One day you had some country, they were not allowing our crop because of aflatoxins. So we want to avoid that. Aflatoxins can cause cancer. The main food for our inmates majorly is posho from the maize. So if we had aflatoxins, then we are going to have a problem of cancer with our inmates. So we do post-harvest handling. All our prison farms which have commercial maize growing, they have a drying platform, but also a maize crib. So this one we are trying to show to the farmers that instead of putting the produce in the granary, where the rats are going to eat the produce, where you're not sure what is left there, whether somebody has stolen, it is not lockable. So you can do an improved version and you have the maize crib. Now, in the construction of this maize crib, what we are telling farmers is that make sure it is at least 1 meter above the ground. And you put those metallic sheets are called rat guards. You know, a rat, when it is trying to climb, it cannot climb backwards. So the rat will not be able to eat your produce. Put a metal sheath down, a wire mesh of a smaller screen, so that when you have your maize inside there and it is threshed, you don't lose the crop down. Make sure that the overhang, what they call locally the rubaraza, is about 1.5 meters to avoid the drift of rain when it rains to enter your produce. Now, this one is helping us to do two factors. It is a store, but it is also helping your crop to dry further. That's why we are having a metal mesh around it. So the air can go through. It can go through it and it dries. Now, you have a scenario where like now, the rains have begun, the other crop is in the garden. So as a farmer, you get confused. But if you have a maize crib, you can harvest that crop even if it has not dried very well. You keep it in your crop and you'll be using the garden in the meantime. Try to roof using iron sheets because it should be leak proof. Otherwise, if water enters there, it will disorganize your crop. And when you are constructing, make sure the door is at the extreme end. It helps you to fill and unfill. If it is in the middle, when you open, maize pours down. But when it is at the side, you start filling from the other end, coming towards the door. So that by the time you are at the door, then it is almost full. Maize can stay there for about 6 months. So if you're a farmer, you are waiting for the market to go up, you can keep your maize here. Instead of keeping in bags, then you start losing your crop. But also for food security at a family level, you can have something small. You thresh once in a while, you mill, and your family really would be having food. We are having a number of them, 1,000 bag capacity, many of them in all these farms. Now we want to transact from this one to go to the silos that I talked about before, because silos are much more efficient. Because we have a combine harvester, so it comes from the field when maize is already threshed. So in that case, you cannot keep it here. That's why we are beginning now to construct some silos.
In addition to being consumed directly by humans, often in the form of kawunga, maize is also used for corn, ethanol, animal feed, and other maize products such as corn starch and corn syrup. The 6 major types of maize are dent corn, flint corn, pod corn, popcorn, flour corn, and sweet corn. Maize current production, productivity, and quality have stagnated due to several biotic and abiotic factors including pests and diseases, declining soil fertility, drought stress, and inadequate extension services among others. Grains market in Uganda is poised to grow at a CAGR of 4.3% by 2027. Growing demand for grains and increase in regional maize exports are key factors to its growth. In maize value chain, the main market actors include producers, farmers, rural aggregators, traders, big buyers, exporters, millers, and consumers, while the support service actors include the input suppliers, transporters, extension service providers, and financial institutes. All these actors interact either directly or indirectly with maize products at various nodes of the chain.